So what's the one strategy for winning that just works? I'm not talking about the cleverest trick or the most efficient shortcut. I'm talking about the single most reliable path to get what you want, no matter what your goal is. We're going to dive into this because the answer is surprisingly simple, but wow, is it demanding. It's all about the principle of more. And this leads to the one question every single one of us has to answer for ourselves. We've all been there, right? You hit a wall, you feel completely tapped out, and you think, I literally cannot do any more. But what if that wall isn't really an endpoint? What if that exact moment of exhaustion is actually the starting line for your biggest breakthrough?
There's this great quote. People say it's from Napoleon that just nails this idea perfectly. Quantity has a quality unto itself. The idea is that sheer, overwhelming volume of your work, of your creative output, of just your effort, it becomes a strategic weapon all on its own. It stops being about who's better or more talented on any given day. It's about being so prolific, so relentlessly there that you become absolutely undeniable.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in the real world? It's one thing to talk about it, but I want to show you a story that perfectly captures the raw, brute force power of just doing more. Okay, so this is Sharon. He was the president of a company called Real, and these numbers are just staggering. He took the business from $200 million to $1.2 billion in under 3 years. That is his six-fold increase in 30 months. So you got to ask, right? What was his secret? What revolutionary new tech or groundbreaking strategy did he use?
This, 260. That was his secret. That's how many events Ciron spoke at in a single year. He wasn't deploying some complex new system. No, he was getting on a plane over and over and over again, speaking on every single stage that would have him, and just generating this tidal wave of demand. That is what volume looks like. Not one big event a month. We're talking nearly one event every single day of the year.
And this whole idea, it just flies in the face of what we're usually taught, right? Especially in business. This obsession with optimization, with being lean and efficient. But there's a really powerful alternative to that way of thinking. And this slide, it really gets to the heart of it all. It's about the question you're asking yourself. See, an optimizer is asking, how can I get the best return for the least amount of effort? They're all about chasing efficiency. But the maximizer, they're asking a totally different question. How do I get everything I possibly can out of this? They aren't worried about being clever. They're just focused on total, absolute output, period. So here's the crucial point. Optimizers, they see diminishing returns and they hit the brakes. They think, it's not worth it anymore. But the maximizer knows this fundamental truth. Diminishing returns are still returns. Yeah, that last bit of effort might not be efficient, but it's what separates the good from the truly great. It's like the 1/10 of a second between a gold and a silver medal, a tiny difference in effort, but in the real world, the difference in the outcome is everything.
And I gotta be honest with you, this was a hard lesson for me to learn personally. Back in high school, I was the classic optimizer. I really took pride in getting A's without trying that hard, and I kind of looked down on the kids who had to grind it out for hours every single night.
But then there was this guy, Kemp. He worked relentlessly. And when it came time for college applications, guess what? He got into the top-tier school that I wanted to go to, and I didn't. It was this massive reality check. The admissions office didn't give out bonus points for being efficient. They only cared about one thing, the final result, the absolute best grades. Kemp maximized his output, and he won. Simple as that.
Okay, so let's build on this, because it's not just a mindset. There's a cold, hard, mathematical reason why consistently doing more beats constantly trying something new. It's all about the hidden and very high cost of change.
As entrepreneurs, we're just wired for action. We love to tweak things, don't we? The website copy, the sales funnel, the ad creative. We get addicted to this promise that this next little change will be the silver bullet that solves everything.
But here's the brutal math behind that habit. Every single time you introduce a significant change, especially if you have a team, you take a guaranteed immediate hit to performance. Let's just call it a 20% dip while everyone adjusts. And you're accepting that guaranteed loss for what? A potential uncertain 5% improvement somewhere down the road? So let me just ask you, straight up, would you take that bet? A guaranteed 20% loss for just a chance at a 5% gain? When you see it laid out like that, it's a terrible deal. And yet, business leaders make this exact bet every single day.
chasing some mythical idea of perfection instead of just mastering what already works.
See, the real magic isn't in the next big change. It's in the compounding returns you get from consistency. When you stick with a strategy, your team gets better, your skills deepen, your processes become flawless. You're in these small, reliable gains every single day, while the person who's always changing things is constantly operating way below their true potential.
So, if the answer isn't always changing things, what does doing more actually look like in practice? Let's stop talking theory and get really, really concrete.
For my latest book launch, our team created over 2,000 unique ads, and that was before day one of the campaign even started. Just think about that for a second. That's not just being prepared, that is a level of overwhelming volume that is designed to pretty much guarantee a result.
And you can apply this logic to almost anything. Let's take paid ads. The MORE framework is super simple. First, create way more creative than you think you need. More shots on goal means a better chance of scoring. Second, spend more money scaling the stuff that works. And third, once you've maxed that out, expand to more platforms. It's volume, volume, volume.
I had a mentor drive this home for me in the most humbling way possible. I honestly thought I was putting out a lot of content, so he had me pull up my LinkedIn page. I had 1 post that day. He pulled up his. He had 10. I checked my Instagram. 0 posts. He had 3. The gap between what we think is a lot and what true high-volume output actually looks like, well, it can be absolutely massive.
So all of this, it brings us right back to you. Because the truly hard problem here isn't finding the next brilliant idea. The hard problem is figuring out how to do more once you already think you're doing everything you possibly can. So I want you to ask yourself this question. What if you knew with absolute 100% certainty that doing 100 times your current level of output would guarantee your success? Would you do it? It completely reframes the problem, doesn't it? It shifts it from a question of possibility to just a question of price.
And that leads to this final challenge for you. First, get specific. What resources would it actually take to achieve that 100x volume? Second, be brutally honest with yourself. Is the prize, is that ultimate goal, truly worth the price? And if your answer to that is a clear, undeniable yes, then the only question left to answer is this.